You're listening to the Hot Topics podcast with Psycho 4081, the lovely Lady Lamb Chop, and the fabulous Felonious Feather. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone to another Hot Topics podcast episode. I'm your host, Psycho 4081, for this beautiful, mild weekend. So I'm here solo again. It was a very busy weekend. Lamb Chop and Felonious Feather had some engagements to attend, and I think we were all a little bit worn out for the weekend. So I'm going solo today, and this episode is going to be a little bit different. Talk a little serious, because we're going to talk about security, home security. We're in September, about to go into October, change of seasons, the holidays are coming, you're going into Thanksgiving, and you got Christmas, so things will change, and there's a lot of things that people should know, and we're going to talk about that on a serious note. So today's episode is going to be called Locked In, Securing Your Home from Burglary. Now, disclaimer, I'm not telling you that everything is going to be foolproof. These are certain things you could deter or prevent you from being an easy target for burglaries. Okay. So, we're going to go over certain things like trying to understand the mind of a burglar, some physical security measures that you can do, some outdoor deterrents, and we're going to go into security systems, behavioral tips. We're going to get into a little bit about neighborhood awareness. And then hopefully by the end of this episode, and it won't be a long episode, but hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll have some, better knowledge than you had before you started to deter yourself from being a victim of a burglary. So let's get into it. So did you know? Now, not a lot of people, if you're home, and I don't want to scare you, but did you know that a home burglary happens every 25 seconds in the U.S.? Think about that. Every 25 seconds in the U.S., a burglary happens. Now, let me explain what a burglary is, first of all. So I know, a lot of people, from what I've heard from people, talking about this and that, a burglary is when somebody breaks into your home. And this is the burglary we're talking about. There's also commercial burglaries and stuff like that. But when somebody breaks into your home with the intent of committing theft, an act of violence or whatever, is not, somebody coming in with a gun and tying you up and all that type of stuff. That's something different. That's a robbery. And we normally would call that a home invasion robbery. So, but this is specifically a burglary. When somebody goes into your shed, somebody goes into your house, that's a burglary. Totally different from robbery, which is a crimes against person. Burglaries are crimes against property. Okay, so that's the difference. And there's different degrees depending on which state you're in. There's different degrees of burglary. Obviously, in the state of Maryland, there's first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree. We won't get into all that, but it's not important. We're going to try to make you safe. So, the main goal, again, like I said, is to empower you, and hopefully you'll let your neighbors know, or, family, friends, or whatever, to take these practical steps to secure your homes. Simple as that. So, and I'm going to try to keep time here. I don't have a Lamb Chop here to push me on, or, give me the signal to shut up. So, getting into, let's understand what the mind of a burglar is like. Again, that's somebody who commits a burglary. Okay. So here's a misconception. I guess it's from TVs and, even cartoons from back in the day. Most burglaries actually occur during the daytime. Did you guys know that? Most burglaries happen during the daytime. Most people think that burglaries happen at night. Somebody wearing a mask and, they climb into your window and tiptoe through your house while you're asleep and, take your watch off the dresser or something like that. But no, burglaries happen mostly during the the daytime. I think it's between like 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. During the times where people are working. Now you can kind of figure out why that would be so, because I just said it. People are working, kids are in school, and you're a burglar will be less suspicious if they're just walking down a neighborhood during the middle of the day versus somebody creeping through a neighborhood at night. And one of the things that thieves do look for, just coming from the mind, they look for easy targets first. Unlocked doors, darkness, dark corners, predictable routines, things like that. And there's a whole science to this. So, you can actually, if you live in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, I think they both do it, but you can ask your local police department if they would come do a presentation of sorts to help you deter burglaries. Or what's the other thing they do? Deter burglaries. And do a home security survey. Okay, they'll come and actually show you physically how to deter burglars and things you could do. It takes about 15, 20 minutes or more if you're a talkative person like I was. But again, most of them happen at night, so they look for the easy things. And burglaries are often crimes of opportunities, not this whole intricate planning that people think. Nobody, unless you're, a superstar and they know you got a ton of money, nobody's going to plan this like in Ocean's 11 to break into your house to get some clothes or some. I don't even think they even steal silver anymore, but just think common things. Opportunities, do not give them opportunity. That's the one thing that you can actually prevent there's a thing called a crime triangle. Okay. You can't change their mindset. You can't change their desire to do it or their ability to do it, but you can change the, the opportunity. And just give you a heads up, it's probably allergy season. Is that usually when the seasons change? That's when all the allergies pop up. So bear with me. Getting back to it, we're going to try to change the opportunity for them to actually complete or be successful in breaking into your home. Okay. Some of the basic things. Lock the doors. People, I don't know if they just, get complacent or have this false sense of security, but lock your doors. That is the easiest thing you could do. Lock your doors and windows, and that includes when you're home, and I just happened to see, I was away this week and I noticed one of the neighbors, not where I live, but where I was staying for the past week. And I noticed that the neighbor always left his garage door open. And, obviously he had stuff in there because it was stuff, you could see it from the outside, and there was stuff on the outside because, you would think that he's having a garage sale or something along those lines, but it was open. And in most homes, the garage usually leads into the home. And those doors are not the best, just something to think about. Lock the doors and windows even when you're at home. There's things you could do as well with the doors and the windows, obviously. Have a deadbolt lock. You can have, with the deadbolts, you want to make sure you have a decent strike plate. Okay. And something that's important as the screws that's holding that together. Believe it or not, you want to have those longer screws. That's something you could look at. But if you had the short screws and somebody wanted to kick it in, guess what? That whole thing is coming right off the door. So you want to take a look at that. You could do in window locks. Let's get it with the window locks. You can have the different types of window locks. Like I said, you can go to your local Home Depot or home improvement center or whatever. And I'm sure they have more new and improved windows than last I checked. So usually they'll have some with the little window locks in there, little crescent locks if they still have those. There's also some that's built in that flip out that prevents the window from going up. So They do have those. And usually if you have a modern house and you have good windows, those are, they present a little bit more security. So make sure the doors and windows are locked. And that includes sliding glass doors. Those are very easy to get into. And that little thing that you see on your sliding glass doors, that little bar that you drop down, that doesn't work as well because you can actually lift the door. I guess I shouldn't be saying it, but you want to prevent that door from being lifted off its track. Okay. And that's something as easy as screwing a dowel, which is, a screw or wooden piece, on the track to keep it from being lifted up. You could put a block up there as well, wooden block. So those are things you could do to prevent it from being easy. Okay. Simple as that. But we're going to take a quick break for our sponsors. Yes, we have sponsors. Anybody who's, adding a commercial to our podcast, they are a sponsor. But check it out. Okay. So we looked at some security measures. For the windows, you can also install a security film on the glass. And what that does is it keeps the window from being shattered. I mean, it'll shatter, but it won't break through. So it gives you a little bit more added protection. And I know most people out there, you don't want to look like you have a crime-ridden neighborhood. And, I'm not going to say go ahead and install bars on there, but that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. But just think about that part. That's a homeowner discretion. And we can get into, what's safe, because you don't want to put bars on your windows where it may violate some security codes or prevent you from getting out in case of a fire or something along those lines, because when certain emergencies happen, people panic and they don't always do the easy things that you would do when you're not in a panic. So, yeah. Now, you can also use smart locks. I have one on my home that, automatically locks at a certain time. You might need a code or, use a fingerprint, something along those lines. They have so many different locks, high tech stuff that's really, really good. So, if you're a techie like me, you can go to your Home Depot, you can go to, even Walmart or Best Buy, any of those stores or stores online that have all these different gadgets that might help. And if you have a front door, hopefully it has a peephole. You want at least, and you can't get a 180 degree view, but you want to at least have, let's say, 120 degree view. When you look at your peephole, you can see the sides, not just what's in front of you. So that's important. And if you have the door that has the glass panes in the doors, I don't know what to say about that, but hopefully you got something, one of those shatterproof glasses or something strong that'll keep somebody from just poking that glass door in or that panel and then reaching in and unlocking your door. So that's something to keep in mind when when you're improving your home or buying a home. Some things that look nice are not that practical. So you want to look at the practical aspects of things as well. And I guess you can do that the same thing to the windows. And the thing is, you want to have visibility, and we're going to talk about that too when it comes to visibility regarding the outside. One thing I thought was always funny is when people put, outdoor lighting or all these different security features in there, but they don't look at the landscaping. You might have a nice lighting, on your home, or even the lighting that's on the street, but it's covered by trees. It serves no purpose. So we're going to talk about the outdoor deterrents and some things and some really, again, it's common sense things. So this is my favorite, motion sensor lights. You want to have that all around any entrance driveways, backyards, things that you know that when it lights, people really don't have a purpose or a reason for them being on your property during certain times of night, right? I'm not saying you put a motion sensor that hits the sidewalk in front, but if it comes in your grass or in your driveway, your front porch, your steps, anything along those lines, you know, that's always a good thing to have. And again, they have people, I hear people saying, well, it's going to make my electricity bill go up. And that's a concern for everybody. But they have things that's so easy now because you can get the solar ones that actually automatically come on at night. Or, again, it depends on how you have it set. It'll come on when somebody comes within the view of the sensor. Right. So it's not going to stay on. I prefer, and this is from the days when I was a police officer. Oh, let me stop this for a minute. I want to give a shout out and congratulations for one of my longtime friends, schoolmate, just recently retired after 29 years of service at Baltimore City Police Department. Corey Landing, congratulations. And, I hope you enjoy your next phase of life. Don't work too hard because 29 years in the police department, especially in Baltimore City, that could wear somebody out, and unfortunately we all have people that we worked with that didn't make it. So, that's an accomplishment. So congratulations. But, so we looked at the motion lights, the sensor lights around the all entrances, driveways, backyards. We talked about the lighting. Trim the shrubs, the bushes, and the trees that block the windows, that block your lighting. That was one of the worst things. You could see it. You can go to people's homes and they have lighting. They got a bush or a tall bush that looks like a tree almost that covers the lighting. What's the purpose? Or you don't want any shrubbery that's going to be able to give a potential burglar a hiding spot. Even if the police came driving down the street, they just happen to be checking out the neighborhood and they can't see anybody hiding in the bushes. So trim those trees back, trim those bushes back, keep it down low enough where, you can at least see out your window. Or if you're coming to your home, you want to be able to see your home. Okay. And if you have trees around, you might want to cut the tree branches and leaves and stuff like that. So at least, you want to cut it upwards where they don't hang down and cover everything. Visibility is key. And again, look at the placements of your light, because again, it makes no sense or doesn't serve a purpose if you have all these fancy lights and cameras if the trees and the shrubbery are in the way, and I don't know if you're a family person and you don't want somebody coming home at night and have to walk through some, thick trees or bushes that can hide anybody. That's just a safety thing. So, definitely want to get that. I think out of most of the things that we talked about, that's some of the easiest and important things to do, right? You could do even things like using gravel or noisy surface things near your points of entry. Like if you have the gravel, you can hear somebody walking on the gravel, whatever. You can use that. Stones. Criminals don't want to be seen. They don't want to be heard. Those are the two things you want to look at. They don't want to be seen and they don't want to be heard. And when you have proper lighting, the bushes are cut down. You put those the noisy things around your entry points, then it makes it harder not to be seen or heard. Along with those lights, those censored lights, you have the cameras out there that make noise that lets people know that they're on camera. So at my house, if you come near my house or my driveway in the back, guess what happens? I get alerted. And you get alerted as well. Beep, 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 beep. The neighbors can hear it going off. So you're going to be seen and you're going to be heard. That's my surveillance and my lights. Okay. You want to Definitely keep your property well lit at night. I can't say that enough times. Even if you have burglars or break-ins or any type of crime in the neighborhood, lighting is always best. What kills me is I know some neighborhoods where they've been victimized. They've had a few burglaries here or whatever. It might even be car break-ins or whatever. And you could go down the street and it's just dark. Nobody has the lighting. Nobody has the porch light on. Nobody has the yard light on. It's just dark. And that just gives a thief a perfect opportunity or even a desire to do more. So those are things you definitely want to look at. And that, like I said, it's easy. Now, I mentioned the camera thing when I said I have a camera. I have cameras on all sides of my house, and they make noise and they record, and they actually record at night. Good clarity, the whole nine. So we're going to talk about some security systems, but we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll get into the security systems and a few other things that's really, really important. Okay, we're back. I was going to say back for the payback. I must save that. You know where that is. Jack the Ripper, LL Cool J. I don't know why these songs always pop in my head when I say certain words, but let me take a break and say, hey, this is the word of the day. It's RoboCop. Now, if you've been following us for the past year and a half, or maybe almost 2 years now, we have a word of the day. And if you get the word of the day for every episode within the month, and you email us at hot topics, that's TOPIX podcast at gmail.com, hot topics podcast at gmail.com, hit us with the words of the day, you will win the prize. First one that gets it in, and everything's timestamped, obviously, because it's email. If you get it in, you'll have the opportunity to win a prize or monetary prize if we can't get you the actual prize that we want to give you. So just keep that in mind, and make sure you subscribe, because we'll send an email out to our subscribers at the end of each month to let them know, hey, the month's over, get those word of the days in, and we can get you your prize. So getting back to the security systems, some of the benefits of installing security cameras and alarms is obviously you can use it as a deterrent. You can actually use it as a tool to view your property at any time. There's some really updated high tech things out there. But if you're going to have a video camera, some surveillance out there, it's really good to have it monitored. That's for the alarms. So let me separate that. You could have surveillance system around your home, and you can also have an alarm system. But you can also have a surveillance and an alarm that's kind of combined. But if you're going to have the alarm, you want to have it monitored, where it'll go to a monitoring center, and then they can have the police come out, and they usually check with you to make sure that it's not a false alarm first, but you want to have that in there. And if you have the surveillance cameras, obviously you can see who's on your property. Some of them allow you to talk. You can hear the voices on the outside. Some of them have an audible warning for people who are on your property. It depends on how it's set. So it's a great tool, and like I said, there's a lot of surveillance systems out there that's not too expensive and have really good clarity. And again, it makes that sound. So that's pretty good. One thing in addition to that, I had to stumble those words in, have some signage, something like, I won't say protected by Viper, that's a car, but, having a sign out there that says this home is protected by blank, blank, blank. You don't have to necessarily put the company the alarm company or the surveillance company, whatever, out there, that's giving them a little bit of an advantage too if you have a actual smart criminal. But just have a sign out there that says, you're under surveillance. This property is protected by whatever. That gives, and sad to say, that gives that burglar the opportunity to bypass your home to go to somebody else's home who's not listening to this podcast. So yeah, throw a sign out there. Signs cost nothing, So along with the alarms, what I personally feel is a great tool, especially now everybody's on with the Amazon this and getting the, home deliveries and stuff like that. Get one of those doorbell cameras. You connect it, you got an app on your phone, and just about everybody has a remote, not a remote, but a smartphone. Get the doorbell camera. It'll let you know when somebody's, on your porch. Record it, and you can actually, a lot of times, depending on what you have, most of them have this, you can actually talk through the doorbell camera. And I think that's a great tool. Sometimes people don't care, but I mean, it's, again, if you were a burglar and you've seen seen a house that had video cameras or the doorbell cameras and all that type of stuff, would you go to that door, or would you go to the next door? Right? Simple things. Some of the things you want to do is, if you're considering getting a security system, you can actually have a company come out there and get it, professionally done and monitored. They usually know where the best places to place your video cameras, or you can, it's not too difficult, but you can get the do-it-yourself systems. And I was going to recommend one because I really love this one, but I won't say it because they're not a sponsor. But this one particular brand is really good. It's an indoor-outdoor video camera, and the clarity is just out of this world, even at nighttime. It picks up sounds like you wouldn't believe. I have a funny story about that one. I'll say that for a later date. And they're easy to install. But if you're not comfortable with that, you can always call somebody in and get you a whole system set up where it includes the Ring doorbell, cameras on the side, the lighting. You might even have something included where you have the camera with I forgot what it's called. I just had it in my head. The big lights that people usually put in their backyards, floodlights. That's what it's called. That has the big floodlights and stuff like that. Those are easy things that you can do. And if you're not really up on stuff like that, just have somebody come in. It's quick and painless. Just do that. It's not bad. And I'm trying to think of some security systems. I mean, they go from cheap to expensive. Depends on what you could afford, how high tech you want it, how interactive you want it as well. And I used to have cameras. I put mine in the inside as well, just because I had a dog at home and I wanted to see what the dog was doing. And it was my opportunity to talk through the camera to the dog, just to mess with them. But yeah, they have a lot of different things. Just go do your research, and even go to, like I said, Best Buy has them where you can put your hands on things and see how it goes. Don't ask the local police department because they're not going to endorse any particular brand of security cameras or alarms. I don't think they're supposed to do that, but that's something you could do on your own. So, speaking about things that you could do on your own, we're going to go into behavioral tips. This is huge. Okay, huge. And like I said, all these things are really, really simple, but we're going to go over some behavioral tips when we come back from our commercial break. And we're back. And for those who didn't know, hey, this is the first week of NFL football. I'm so glad football season has kicked off. You know, there was some really, really close games, some exciting games, and if your team didn't win, don't worry. It's the first game of the season. There's a long season ahead, but, some really, really good games. So I'm looking forward to the season. And if you've been followers, you know who my team is. So I'm not even going to mention it. Yes, they won. All right. So behavioral tips. Here's some things that you can do to deter burglaries. 1, don't advertise your absence. Okay. Avoid posting vacations in real time. Like, this is what I see, right? People go on vacation. They go on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, and they have some lovely videos. Or they update. What's the other one? Twitter. Or X. I forgot what it's called. It's called X, formerly known as Twitter. And they post their hourly activities. They put out there, you can tag your location. Oh, I'm in Florida for the week. Hey, they're having parties and this and that, whatever. And it doesn't take, a genius to figure out, oh, that person's out of town for the week. That means their house could be a target, right? Don't advertise your absences. Avoid putting vacations online in real time. Now, if you want to go someplace, it's easily you can have a time of your life, and then when you come back, post all that. This is what I did last week. Something as simple as that. It's not difficult, Now, again, when you're away from your house, use some timers for those lights. They have that there. If you use timers where your lights come on at certain times, and even they have the automatic timer plugs where if you wanted to have your lights on the inside come on, the outside lights come on, or even the TV or radio starts playing at certain times. Think of things like that. You want to make sure that you have your house looks lived in or is being occupied. Easy enough. Even when you go away, you might ask your neighbor who has multiple vehicles, hey, I'm going away for the week. If you have any company, tell them to park in my driveway, or you could put your second car in my driveway, but to help us out, and it helps them out as well, because, it might be you a victim that, gives them the idea to come back and do the next house. But anyway, and neighbors help neighbors. So, you're looking at your trash cans, have your neighbor, a trusted neighbor or family member come past and take your trash out, put it on the curb where it's usually sitting, come collect it when it's supposed to be collected. Don't tick off your neighbors and if the trash has to be picked up Monday morning, don't put it out Friday night. That's just being annoying. And it's probably against the law anyway. But yeah, you want to have that neighbor, family, friends, or whatever come by, pick up your mail, the newspapers, all that type of stuff. Because you want to make sure that your home looks lived in. And nothing says I'm not there than when you have newspapers piled up in front of your door, or mail that's popping out of your mailbox, or what do you call them things? Those flyers that's so old that they're disintegrating. You won't have your neighbor or a trusted person. I'm gonna say that a trusted person come and take your mail and all that other type stuff, because you want to make sure that your house is lived in or occupied, right? Change up your routines. Make your presence less predictable. Now, you've heard me say that on the personal security podcast episode we did. Less predictable. We are creatures of habit. I know that. I'm one too, but I do change up every once in a while. But change up your routines. Don't do the same thing where somebody can just sit out there for about 15, 20 minutes or even half a day and know your entire routine. The times that you walk, where you walk, how long you're walking, the car That's another thing too. You can go to some neighborhoods during the daytime and you can look down the block and see no vehicles out there. Like everybody looks the same. And they just assume that if I go and break into a house, then nobody's going to see me. No neighbor's going to see me because they're not home either. Right. But change up your routine anyway. Another thing you want to do is, I'm gonna tell you, here's some things to do in the inside. This is not so much of a deterrent for burglaries, but it's the things that you can do to help yourself if you are a victim of a burglary. Write down the serial numbers, make, model, serial numbers, all those things of your valuables. Even things that you can engrave with maybe your driver's license number or your telephone number, where if somebody was to come across a burglar with or a suspicious person that have, a TV or radio or whatever they have, they can identify it. And keep those numbers in a safe place. Oh, that's important. Nothing more challenging when you have a burglary and they have all your valuables, but there's no way to identify the valuables, even on a police report. Well, I don't have a serial number to give you. I don't have a make. I don't even remember the color of such and such. So you want to write those things down. So if you are a victim, God forbid, you have that information to give the police when they come to take the report. But don't put all your keys in an easy spot for them to take. So if they break into your house, they also have your keys and they can take your car too. That has happened before. So change. That's a behavioral thing. Put the keys in a not so obvious place. And under the doormat is an obvious place. Don't do that. Everybody knows to check under the doormat. Okay. So let's see some other routines you could do. We talked about routines. Cut your grass. If you got high grass, nothing says I'm not home or I don't care than when you have your grass is a foot tall. Or you can prearrange it with the neighborhood, some of the neighborhood kids or whoever cuts your grass. Maybe somebody can come through and just cut your grass. You want to do that. That's a good habit to have. Let's see. I think that's all I can think of right now for the behavioral tips. Engraving your possessions, secure your keys, take account of your keys. Make sure you know where your keys are and that you can account for every key. If you lose a key, you might want to consider changing your locks. Consider it. People lose keys all the time. That's a lot of money to go in and change every lock you have on your house. But you want to make sure you have accountability over your keys. You definitely want to do that. So anyway, if you have any questions, you can ask your local police department or you can send us an email and we'll see if we can answer your questions. But those are the behaviors. And we're going to go into neighborhood awareness. And I probably should have went the opposite direction. Should have started at the neighborhood and then talked about things going inside your house. But it is what it is. Neighborhood awareness. And this is funny because, you can live in a place for 20, 30 years and not know your neighbors. So the first thing I'm going to say is get to know your neighbors. You don't have to be buddy with them, but get to know them. You might need them one day. They might have some information. Oh, that person doesn't live there. That person is unfamiliar to that property. Let me call the police. Right. If my neighbors, I know my neighbors have children. If I see the child climbing in the window, I know that the child lost their key. That's different. But if it's somebody lurking around my neighbor's home and I know who lives there, I know a little bit more than just who lives there, that might prompt me to call the police. So it's always good to get to know your neighbors because neighbors look out for each other. With that said, if you have a community association or a homeowners association, get involved with the neighborhood watch program. Now, studies have shown that in communities where they have a neighborhood watch, or what they call it, citizens on patrol, crime is significantly lower. Okay. Nothing beats an old nosy neighbor, or, the neighborhood snitch that walks around. Hey, say what you want. It makes a safer neighborhood. But definitely, if you can actually check with your local police department and see how you can get that started as well. Some places have grants that you can start up that, help you out with signage or training to make sure you have a actual working neighborhood watch program or citizens on patrol. So don't be so shy. Then you have this slogan or statement that people say: if you see something, say something. You always hear that, right? Report suspicious activity immediately. Don't wait till Monday. This is a killer, right? On Friday, officer, on Friday, I saw these guys, walking around my neighbor's property, or, at such and such, and they had on all black, and it was closed, and I just wanted to wait till Monday to let you know about it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Report suspicious activity immediately. The worst thing that can happen is the police get there, deter something from happening, or they identify a possible suspect or somebody who would have been a suspect, right? There's no harm in that. Report suspicious activity. And if you're going to do it, one thing you want to do is get a good description, height, weight, clothing. And the height and weight is going to be difficult, looking out the window, whatever. You can kind of estimate. And clothing, say they're dark clothing, light clothing, because if it's at night, you may not be able to really tell. If you're not sure, you can say dark or light instead of, it was blue or black. You don't know. You want to race, if you hear them talking, speech, their mannerisms, anything along those lines. Anything that they have in their hands, tools, anything that you've heard, if you hear a radio, all of those things you want to notice and then report it to the police so they can respond accordingly. And that's not too difficult. So have I said anything too difficult yet? I don't think so. This is, you don't have to be a super detective or, prepare for the zombie apocalypse just to, do these things here. So we talked about the security systems, the lighting, behaviors. We talked about early things. We talked about the mind of a burglar, some physical security measures. Like I said, this is quick, but they have these presentations that the police department does to help you out. But it's something quick for a podcast episode because we want to make sure that you are safe, So, what else did we talk about? I think that's about it. So nothing out here was difficult. We talked about, outdoor deterrents. So again, when you want to talk about prevention is key. There's layers. You got, physical, digital, social, right? Those are the layers that you have. And the more barriers that you create, the less appealing your home becomes because they like the opportunity. And if your property looks like it's not going to be an easy job, they'll go to a property that may look easier. Now, I failed to mention this, though. One of the things that we would say is make sure that you keep your property up because, believe it or not, criminals will break into places that they feel is unoccupied, not going away from, on vacation or anything like that, unoccupied, because they might use that as a base to get away from, crime apprehension or use that to do other crimes in the area. Some people just break into homes and go in there and do all types of stuff, smoke, arson, whatever. So make sure that your home looks like it's lived in, even though you would think that, oh, that house over there, has the broken window, which is broken window theory. They have the high grass, vines all up around the house, whatever. It's probably not going to be lived in. Let me go. We could break in there. Maybe we might find something in there. Trust me, that happens. And we talked about the little small habits. Lock your doors, lock your windows. All those things make a big difference. So, but again, if you have any questions, you can send us an email at hot topics, that's TOPIX, podcast @gmail.com, or, which I prefer, call your local police department. You can call the district or precinct, whatever they call it, ask for the community affairs or community outreach or anything along those lines. And, they might be able to answer your questions. I'm going to say 9.9 out of 10, they'll probably be able to answer your questions. So I'm going to leave it here. I don't want this to be too long because, if you're like me, my attention span is very short. So you guys can do us a favor, do yourself a favor. You invite other listeners. Maybe they'll want to share their home safety tips. Maybe they might be able to learn something from this episode. So, and then invite others to subscribe. You subscribe yourself, obviously. That's www.hottopics, TOPIX, hottopicspodcast.com. And we're on a bunch of platforms. Apple, Spotify, say those are the two most popular, I think. iHeartRadio and YouTube is like 12 of them. But yeah, check us out, Hot Topics Podcast. And you can also check us out with our little videos and stuff like that on Facebook, TikTok, IG, Tumblr, YouTube, Blue Sky, Threads. And we have coming up this month, we have Mrs. and I hope I said Mrs. Let's say Makita Scott. She's going to be a candidate for Baltimore County 4th District Council. Okay. So, if you have any questions, you can email your questions in and we'll try to, ask those questions. She'll be on, I think, is the end of the month, but this is your opportunity to, get involved with the election process, hear what they have to say, and maybe it'll help you decide, be a responsible voter, help you decide who you want to vote for. So anyway, thank you guys for listening, chiming in. Again, we want to say like, follow, share, the whole nine, and have a good week.
Thank you, family, for listening to the latest episode of Hot Topics. As usual, listen, like, share, subscribe. Ta!